All right, folks, we are back for part 2 of our show. We answered a great listener question in part 1 about what kind of stock you should be getting on Reg.A offerings from an investor perspective. But now, Miguel, we're going to get into some really interesting news that just happened. It's tremendously big here in the Reg.A market. So you want to just tell our listeners what that is, or should I go ahead?
First of all, take this coffee from me and smell this coffee. Does this coffee smell right to you, dude? Smell it. Does it smell good? I just microwaved it, so maybe you said something about a little extra caffeine. I'm like, I want you to smell my coffee, Ron, because
listen, you can never get enough coffee for sure. You know, that's the Italian in me speaking as well.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with my coffee, right?
No. You know what? Reg.A is an interesting topic for you. You start talking about it, and people can see the excitement and feel the excitement in your voice. It's great, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. If I'm going to be excited about something, Ron, people, I know we've been doing this over and over and over again, but people have to understand because the ability to access the capital markets has never been as easy. Has never been so available. It's like it used to be this little tiny pinhole in this giant wall, and this little pinhole had drops that would come out, and people would access capital markets. Somebody came in. I'll tell you what happened. The Jobs Act came in, and with a sledgehammer, with a jackhammer, okay, went to work on this wall, dude. And what they've done is they put a tunnel. A huge tunnel that you could drive a freight train through and open the access to the capital markets. And let me tell you something else, Ron, okay? And let me tell all the listeners out there, if you thought for one moment that the SEC was going to sit back and not try to improve this thing because this Reg.A has become so massive, well, guys, I'm going to drop it on you right now. They have increased the limit, and the limit is now $75 million. Almost $750 million can be obtained through a simple Reg.A Plus offering. That means that if you've been listening to the show, you know what all the requirements are for a Reg.A. You know what your company has to go through to get to that level of Reg.A offering and get qualified with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, the SEC has taken upon themselves to raise that level, that ceiling, and say, you know what, this has been so successful, let's go up even higher, $75 million. And you know what I surmise from all of this, Ron, is that the success and the professionalism and everything that has gone on within the last year or so of Reg.A, well, actually it's not even been a year yet. A little bit, just a year that has gone on has been above the bar. And when that happens, you get rewarded. The companies that have been coming out are above the bar. The reports that have been coming out are above the board. Everything has been going exactly the way that it's planned. And that's amazing for a government entity to be able to do something like that, above bar, setting a standard. Now guess what, Ron? $75 million. So if you think for one moment that your dream, you're out there, I was talking to a guy, Ron, he has 2 dealerships. And he's saying, man, Miguel, I want to figure out how to access this Reg.A thing, man. I've been listening to the show. I just can't wrap my head around it. I really don't know. And you know what I said? You know what the first thing I said to this guy was, Ron?
Yeah, what?
Your dream is not big enough. I said, your dream is not big enough, my friend. You know why your dream is not big enough? Because you're only thinking of these 2 dealerships. You're not thinking about 10 dealerships. You're not thinking about, why don't you think about making a Reg.A just to finance all the cars that you're selling? He goes, I can do that? I said, of course you can do that. You can finance. You can be your own finance company if you want it to be. You can lease cars. You can finance the cars for all these customers. Buy here, pay here. Dude, that has Reg.A written all over it.
It does. There's so many applications for it. Yeah.
Wow. Ron, and I'm telling you right now, and I'm talking, and you guys know who I'm talking to, because you guys have been listening. You guys have been standing on the sideline. You've been downloading us. You've been listening and reading Ron's articles. When Ron puts out an article, you've been catching everything that we've been throwing, but you've been standing on the sideline. How long are you going to stand on the sideline? How long are you going to allow your dream to whittle away on the sideline? You have to get involved. You got to either write us a question. You got to maybe come onto the show. You got to get some movement in your business, so that way you can start putting your weight and feeling your way around. This Reg.A thing ain't going anywhere, my friends. This is Reg.A.
No, in fact, it's getting better. It's getting better, Miguel.
Tell me about the article that you were reading. Tell me about the article that you were reading.
We posted the article over on ipotogo.com, and basically what Miguel was talking about is it was called the Regulation A Plus Improvement Act of 2017. And if you're interested in more information, you can just head on over to ipotogo.com, and you'll see a whole little article that we wrote regarding that act. But Miguel, here's a question for you, though. Do you think that raising it to $75 million, do you think that's going to capture the interest of more sophisticated, let's say, broker dealers or institutional investors, or does it have to go higher?
Look, I think that's great. Ron, you got something in your coffee now, I bet. You see, we got to check that. We got to check the coffee pot here at the office and then here in the studio in a little bit. Ron, no, you're absolutely right, dude. I think as a trend, I don't think this is a fluke. I think that this is something that's going to continue to happen. I think that the SEC is, as these companies become more and more successful, the SEC is going to raise the bar. As they raise that bar, I do think we're going to capture more sophisticated investors, but we're also going to capture more of the imagination of the broker dealers, because these broker dealers right now and these market makers, man, they're just kind of scratching their heads. When I was at NEBA, I told you how many people were presenting Reg.As, and I could look around the room and see the broker dealers kind of scratching their heads, going, "But why would anybody do a Reg.A? I don't understand." And if you got a broker dealer or a market maker kind of saying to you, "Man, I really don't understand," I would go the other direction, to be honest with you. But I think you're onto something, my friend. I think you're onto something, because yes, it's going to start to capture the imagination of other broker dealers. The broker dealers are now going to say, wow, $75 million. Hey, hang on, wait a second now. 10%? I get 10% of 75. Well, that's $750,000. If I had my 3% overage, now we're talking about almost talking about $1 million per offering here. This might be something interesting that we actually might be able to do now, because that's where the thrust of this comes. Because anybody that's going to move into a Reg.A, specifically market makers and bookmakers and broker dealers, they want to know how much they're going to make, Ron. And we've talked about this, that a lot of these companies are doing these that are self-underwritten by the company, and a lot of these people are doing small. Remember, I think it was Darren from CrowdfundX who was on the show with us a couple of weeks ago, who was explaining the perfect storm, right? The perfect storm for a Reg.A would be like 20 to 30% broker dealer, 30 to 25 to 30% the crowd, that mysterious crowd that we're all trying to build, and then 30 to 25% of institutional investors. So you get a little combination there, like 60-40. Maybe you don't do any institutional. Maybe it's all like 40% or 30% broker dealers, and then 60% the crowd. But Darren was onto something, man. By moving this up a little bit higher. Yeah, by moving this up a little higher, it's going to allow a few different people to come into the mix, and it's only going to make the industry that much better for all of us, Ron, for all of us.
And by the way, I heard from Darren yesterday. He's got another interesting thing going on. Hopefully we'll get him on the show again, and he could tell our viewers what the latest is. It's a more amazing news for him. So stay tuned for that episode. That'll be pretty good as well. So
yeah, no. Listen, you guys, if you found us today, then congratulations. If you've been listening to the downloads, then congratulations. You're not going to go wrong here on the Reg.A Money Show with Miguel Dotres and Ron Costa. We bring you information every week on this industry and what's going on and how businesses are accessing capital markets. Hundreds and millions of dollars are being created in capital. And you guys have the opportunity to hear it from us and our guests that we bring onto the show and everybody that comes in there. So, you got to tune in because, man, Ron, listen, the next week's show, we don't have a contender this show because we normally do a nice little contender segment. Our contender, just so that way you guys know real quick, Ron, I know you're looking at me and I know we're running out of time, but the contender is a company that is either doing a crowdfunding or is going and getting ready for a Reg.A. And then we have the qualifiers, right? These are the qualifiers, right? These guys have already qualified and are actually in the midst of doing a Reg.A offering. So, like Georgia was thinking, you would go to some of these qualifiers, these guys already qualified and they're doing their thing already, where our contenders, they haven't been qualified yet, but they're getting ready to be qualified. So, we're bringing some interesting things. We got our guest segment, we got the qualifier segment, we got the contender segment. We got a bunch of stuff happening here on the show, guys. Ron and I really appreciate you guys tuning in to us, downloading us, sending us the email, sending us the support, and the shout-outs and everything else. We really do appreciate all of that support. So,
before we go, Miguel, let's just recap and bring this thing full circle real quickly. This Regulation A Plus Improvement Act of 2017, this raised the maximum raise from $50 million to $75 million, correct? That's the whole deal of the act. Okay, so now let's tie it into what you talked about in the first half of the show today. If you're going to do a Reg A and it makes sense to go to a higher amount than $50 million, then why not do it, right? I mean, the expenses to get there are pretty much the same, more or less. So it's great for companies that want to raise even more than $50 million. Now they have this opportunity to do this based on the passing of this bill. So I think it really works out in a nice full circle. We got a really good show today with those two topics between getting the stock and then how much does the company raise. So this is a really good show. I'm really glad we found out this information when we did. It's perfect timing for us. So
yep.
And should we just close the show out on that, Miguel? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great time. It's a great thing. I do want you to just tell the people, Ron, because I think it's so important for them to know. Some of them tune in later. It's so important, and you've done such a great job of putting that information out there. Tell them where they can listen to us. Tell them where they can find us online, Ron. Tell us how they can engage with us because it's so important. I know there's a lot of people out there that are catching us for the first time, maybe the second time, and they miss it. So tell them where they can find us.
Well, the best thing to do is just head on right to Reg.A That's our website. And on Reg.A you'll see links to a whole bunch of what we got going on. And in addition to that, we're on the iHeartRadio network. We're on SoundCloud. We're available on iTunes. We're on the Stitcher mobile app. We are on Spreaker. And basically we're on Google first page for, Reg.A at this point. And we'd love to have all you guys listen and subscribe. And we bring this information to you because we love what we're doing here. So on behalf of Miguel Dotres, myself, Ron Costa, thank you all for listening to another show. And we'll be back at you next week with another Reg.A Money Show. Everyone have a great week.